Good afternoon. My name is Helle Stålung. I'm project manager at Danish Standards, and I'm secretary for both the European and the International Committee dealing with standards for toys of safety. Standards are mostly constantly updated, and this is also because the toy industry is very innovative. They are very fast-moving, they are very fashion-led, so therefore new products emerge, and with all the new products, some hazard might also emerge. Also, the regulations is changing as the new toy Safety Directive, and therefore we have to make sure that the standards fulfill the new requirements. It's also a desire to try and get some harmonized global standards. So, as you can understand, the work never ends. The Toy Safety Directive, which we have been talked a lot about today, is the reason why we have started the revision of all our standards within toy safety. So the whole 71 series has been revised or is under revision, and the electrical standards 6215 has also been revised. The standards are referred to in the official journal, and this means that the standards comply with the requirements in the directive. And then it's the experts' task to try and interpret the requirements in the directive and write the specific requirements in the standards, supplied with tests if necessary. And for example, the new requirement for toys that should not pose a strangulation hazard has been dealt with, where the length requirement has been exceeded. The formal method for revising standards is through a mandate from the European Commission. And in conjunction with the CEN, they have given the mandate M445. And this is also clarified from all the member states. And as Christian mentioned, it's the time deadlines, they are set in the mandate by the Commission, and we have to follow. Normally it takes much more time to make a standard than the standard we have to make, for instance, for the chemical. And what is standard makers? You can say that the Series 71 is the Technical Committee 55 responsibility. It's a CEN committee. The committee exists of all member states, experts nominated by member states. And as there are many standards within 52, we have decided to make some working groups, where working group 3 is for the mechanical and physical properties. This is dealing with mostly with part 1. Working group 5 is the chemical properties, and the working group 10 is activity toys for domestic use. And the secretariat is held by Denmark and Danish standards. And then there is this is very stupid, this one, sorry. Then there is Senelec TC61, which deals with the requirements for electric toys, and they have created a working group 7 taking care of this. And who is the experts? Experts are nearly everybody. Everybody who has an interest in being a part of the development of standards. The stakeholders is normally the industry, the authorities, test laboratories, and the consumer interest groups. Each country has their own mirror committees, national committees. And this is very good for small countries because this gives them a possibility to get influence on the standards, even though they haven't got the financial possibility to travel around the world to attend the meetings. And as I said before, everybody can join the standardization if they've been nominated, and they can join at national level, European level, or international level. You might also try to contact your trade association. They might be a member, and they might give you some information. And in the national standardization body, for instance, is DS or CIS here in Sweden. So what has changed? Nearly everything. As Christian has talked about, the part 1 for the mechanical and physical requirements has been revised according to the directive. The same is part 2, flammability, and part 8 for activity choice for domestic use. And part 3, migration, part 4, experimental sets, part 5, other than experimental sets, and 7 for finger paints, they are under revision. Part 3 has just been out for inquiry, and the deadline was yesterday. Part 5 and 7 is out for inquiry, and part 4 will go out for a formal vote soon. According to the new Toy Safety Directive, we also have to produce some new standards, and it's part 12 for nitrosamines, which we also have talked about before today, and part 13, which is the standard for cosmetic kits. We also have part 9, 10, 11, and this has also been said before, that we had decided to confirm them for a short period because the working group haven't got time to look at them right away. And then finally we have 6215s, where they have 3 amendments. The mandate is, as said before, a request, the Commission which makes an official request to send according to the new Toy Safety Directive, and this task has been passed on to Sen and Senelec to look at this. And there is some specific task which we have to look at. First of all, the new warnings. There's some new specific warnings, and these warnings can be seen in Annex 5 of the Toy Safety Directive. And there's a new warning for toys commingled with food. Furthermore, there's new essential requirements which we have to deal with. For instance, the mouth-actuated toys. Furthermore, the acoustic requirements. Toy books. We will have to ensure that toy books do not have a potential shocking hazard. And this we will have to see whether it is dealt with properly. Then we have to look at the existing standards, and if they are not relevant any longer, they will have to be withdrawn. And finally, in these standards, you will have an Annex ZA. In this Annex ZA, it will clearly show you by linking the requirements in the Toy Safety Directive with the clauses in the standard fulfilling these requirements. So if we start with part 1, one of the big changes is courts. There has been been a new requirements for yo-yo balls, and it's because of the length. We have to look at reducing the risk to become entangled in the cords and get it around the neck. There's some new requirements for the maximum length of cords with attachments that can form a loop. And here the toys intended for children under 18 must not be more than 220 millimeters. For toys for children between 18 and 36, it's 300. There is also a max length for cords with a free end. Here it is 300 for toys for children under 18. And if it's more than 300, we have some new warnings. So if cords are more than 220, there should be a warning. If it's more than 300, there must be a warning. And toys for children under 36 months with electrical cables longer than 300 shall also have a warning. And furthermore, there is a new length for pull-along toys, where the length must not be more than 800 millimeters. There's also a new requirement for breakaway, and they will say, for instance, toys with a strength, what you have around the neck, for instance, a guitar, and it shall withstand a 24 Newton breakaway feature. Toy supplied with food is a note in the revision, but still we have to look at it. It says in the directive, I quote, "Toys firmly attached to a food product in such a way that the food product needs to be consumed in order to get direct access to the toy are prohibited." And once I also mentioned the toys with commingle with foods. They must be packed separately. And the packing should not fit into the small part cylinder. Furthermore, there is now a warning on the outer food packaging, and the warning has to say toy inside, adult supervision recommended. The packaging is also a new requirement, and it was also introduced in the 2011 revision, and the requirement is now the thickness of the plastic sheeting. It's bags which are able to fit over the head of a child. They must not have a drawstring closure. There's the small ball requirements, and this is for any age now. The same is for the shape and size requirements for component parts in the form of cylinder. It's also for any age. And at last, the hemispheric shapes. Other updates in part 1 is the mouth-actuated toys. Previously the requirement was only for the mouthpiece, but now the requirement is for the whole toy. If you take a trumpet, then it's not only for the mouthpiece, but also for the buttons on the valves. The suction cups, which Christian also have mentioned, is a new requirement. And the projectiles, they will now have to withstand a 90 Newton tension force. The projectile must have a length of at least 75 millimeters after the new test. And there's new requirements for suction cups on a string. Ride-on toys has also been updated, and now it requires brakes for some freewheeling toys. There's also a maximum speed for toys under the age of 6, and there is new warnings in case the freewheel toys have no brakes. It should have a warning. New work going on is warnings, and it's Amendment 1. I'm sorry about this. It's very irritating. First of all, the task group would like to make it more legibility, the legibility better, and they are looking on how to do that. It's very necessary that consumers, they can read the warnings, and we have to include a lot of languages. We get more and more members in CEN and more languages. There's also some suggestion of best practice. Maybe you can look at the font to make it more clear that this is a warning. It should have a good contrast, and then they suggest to replace it by a symbol. But this might not be in the draft when it goes for formal vote, because the member states, they agree that it is in conflict with the directive, and I've just heard Jan saying that you can just forget it, so we will see what happens. Other new work is acoustic, and that's Amendment 2. As said, it has just been out for CEN inquiry, and comments have come in, and we have got a lot of comments. We have nearly 100 pages of comments, which we have to deal with in the beginning of October here in Sweden. And first of all, it is proposed the general lowering of the limits, and this is due to reduction in the action limit values in the noise of work directive, of which this requirement is based. There should also now be an equivalent sound pressure level limit for all toys, and not only for some. And some test method for child-actuated toys. Previously, there was no requirements for toys like drums and whistles. And there's requirements for toys that can be confused with close to the ear. The acoustic amendment will be completed in July 2013. Toy books is also a new amendment, Amendment 3. And here we have to look at the shocking hazard posed by toy books. And what they look at is the cardboard. It's important to find out whether the cardboard can release some small pieces which could fit into the small part. It is said that the requirements is quite unclear. In USA, they say that this has this is no hazard. There's no accident data to show that there's a hazard. So we might follow US and say that it is not necessary, but we will have to see. Cardboard is also now allowed for children under 3 if it doesn't fit into the full part, or not a small part, and if they can easily be detected. It must not easily be detected. For instance, a puzzle. Then we have the projectile toys fired by an elastic band. And this is, for instance, a toy plane where you, with a hook, you can pull back and fire. And normally this was considered to be excluded from the directive, but it is now included. So the new mandate has requested that we update according to this. There is a bit confusion because the catapults and slings are excluded in the directive in Article 2, and the Commission and Sen is trying, or Sen has asked Commission to try and clarify what they mean with this. But it's still in the early development. Part 2 is also revised, and it's for flammability. And it's revised mostly because of a new definition of flammable liquids and highly flammable liquids. And it's according to the latest EU regulation, the CLP, standing for classification, labeling and packaging. And there's also a classification that items shall be tasted as flowing hair and wigs. There's requirements and tests which previously regarded soft-filled toys. They are also now covered, and also toys which is hooked during play. And we have a new proposed work where we will clarify the application of flame to soft-filled toys. And this is because some of its very small toys, it has been technically possible to apply the flame quite close to the top of the toy rather than the bottom. Part 8 is also revised. There's a new definition here also for activity toys. And there's some new requirements for paddling pools. They shall now include a new pictogram, which you can see below. This shall also update loading tests, and new warning requirement shall be on all activity toys if it's mentioned in the scope of the standard. Furthermore, we have started some new work on trampolines, and it will be part 14 in the series. It has just gone out for inquiry, and we hope this also can be finished in July 2030. Part 3 is also under revision, and Christina has talked a little about Part 3, which has got 3 new elements. You can see the list here. As Christina also said, the material has been divided into 3 categories. Chromium has been divided into 2, and the limit value has been lowered, especially for chrome 6 and for organic tin. And this in the group, or in the working group 5, dealing with part 3, they have very big problems because they cannot detect detect the low limit of chromium 6, and they are still working with the problem to see how to solve it. So as Christian said, it's very, very important for all stakeholders to follow the developments very closely. And also said before that it changed very quickly, so there's already new limits for cadmium, and it's already in the Toy Safety Directive. And then lead and barium is being discussed and will possibly also be lowered. Other chemical standards, which we also have talked about earlier today, is part 12, the nitrosamines. And here it is materials for children under 3 or for things placed in the mouth. And here's also the finger paints. And again, there is low limit values here too. Part 13 is the cosmetic kit, and Christina talked about cosmetic kit, which has some substances which might cause allergy, but which the Toy Safety Directive allows being used in these specific toys. The revision of 4, 5 and 7 is going on, and as said before, they are out for inquiry. Part 4 will be out for formal vote very soon. Finger paints will go out for 2 months, within 2 months for inquiry. It has been a little delayed. Here also the warnings will be updated, and the positive negative list has also been updated. And part 9, 10, 11 we have talked about, they will be revised later on. The electrical standard 6215 has also been revised with Amendment 2, and as you can see, there has been a general update also for requirements for computer toys, for batteries, and for the working voltages greater than 24 volt. In Europe, or EN in CEN, Toy Safety Directive, there's some requirements which is not included in Amendment 2. So therefore there has been made a new amendment which has just been published, and it's Amendment 11, where the requirements for temperature rise limits and for AVIT equipment, functional safety, is included, and even a rationale which has never been in the 6215 before. Furthermore, they are working on an amendment. It's not Amendment 2, it hasn't got any number yet, and it will include the EMF requirements, and this is the magnetic fields. So, as you can see, we are very busy in the standardization work, because the new requirements, they require that we revise the standards. So therefore it's important to make sure to be updated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who spoke about the value of play? With all these regulations and standards, there's really a lot to do. Questions, please?
I have a suggestion to the warning part. If I could see there was a guideline for some of the warnings that they were translated into all the different languages. I would like that also with the very simple warnings, like a small part, and then translate that into the different European countries and choking hazard and so on. So you could use that when you are making your packaging, instead of that all our producers, we are trying to find the right word, but
it's very difficult to get the countries to make these translations. But for the time being, we have just sent out an Excel file with some of the some of the warnings? All the warnings. Yeah.
Okay.
And there was a deadline, the 15th of September, and I think we might have received half of them. So we will try and see if we can get all translation in, and then it will be published as a document in our TC.
Okay. Then I would also like to hear, when are the new standards available in Danish?
The part 1 is available. Yes, it has just been published.
I have a question. When we talk about the warning text on the packaging, but I difficult to find the regulation that mention about the warning text on the poly bag.
Christian?
Do we have this kind of regulation that in Europe that
ask
need
Christian to answer your question if it's okay.
You mean plastic bags in general, not specifically for toys? Because for toys we have clear regulations saying how thick the plastic must be, if it can cover the mouth and nose, and if the opening allows it to be pulled over the head, etc. So it's all regulated, and the requirements for toy packaging are the same as the requirements for toy materials. But if you refer to, let's say, a general warning, do not give this plastic bag to children, etc., no, there's no general European requirement for such a marking. But many would still use it, because in other countries there might be requirements. That's a Canadian requirement. That's required by legislation in Canada. So that's when you sell to North America, you would usually have that warning on, because it's difficult to prevent those toys from also entering into Canada. And that warning requirement applies even if you comply with the requirements for perforated plastic or thick plastic, etc. It still needs to be on. So it's a special Canadian requirement.
Yes, more questions? Aline?
You said that we need to be updated, and I think your updating here now was very good. But can you explain how we keep updated? Because I think that many of the discussion and the version is not for the public. We cannot reach this document. I think first the formal vote version is to get hand of.
How it is in other countries, but in Denmark you have all possibilities to get some special agreements that you are updated all the time, for instance by something we call standard distribute. So every time some new things happened within the area you are interested in, you will be notified.
But it's first when the standard is published?
No, also when it's going for inquiry and formal vote.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. More?
Also, if you enter the British Standards Institute's website, there you can actually, you can't download the complete drafts, but you can read them, and you can even comment on them and request that the British Toy Committee takes your comment into consideration. So that's another source where you can actually, it's free to the public, it's free for anybody, but you can't download the actual documents. You can read them, but there are all the drafts published.
You can also do that at the Danish standards website. We have just started it.
Yeah. Yes, please. Don't forget to fill in the questionnaire, the evaluation questionnaire, and if you have some recommendations, I do not. There's some space in the bottom, but please also come up with recommendations for other information activities which could be organized later on. Don't forget to take some of the brochures in your own language. And should there be a final question for Helle? No?
I have a final thing I would like to say. The best thing to be updated is to be a member of the national group, where you will get all documents and drafts directly.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to thank you because you came here, but I think Catherine will close the meeting.
Thank you very much. Yes, just on behalf of the European Commission, of TIE, of the Nordic Toy Association and the Swedish Association, thank you very much to the speakers for their great contributions. Thank you to all of those who asked questions, who made the discussions even more interesting. Thank you to all of you for coming. Some of you have come from quite far. And thank you also for staying, because we do sometimes notice with seminars, that after people come in the morning and then after two hours they're gone. So you're still quite numerous. I hope it was useful. I think we've given quite a lot of information in terms of where you can get further information. You should have our contact details. All of the presentations are on that stick that you were given at the start of the meeting. And yeah, I mean, you should know where to find us if you have further questions. But thank you very much. Thank you.
And